For this tutorial, you will need your selected yarn. I'm using Paintbox Simply Aran. I'll leave a link in the description box below for the details of that. You will need a 5mm crochet hook if you're using the same yarn, or you can use your corresponding crochet hook for the yarn that you have chosen. You'll need a pair of scissors and a darning needle, and you may wish to have a couple of stitch markers on hand as well. As I say, I will leave a link in the description box below for you of the blog post for this particular square, and then you can find the written instructions and all of the details on there. As always, if you like my videos, don't forget to give them a thumbs up, leave a comment in the comment section, share with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe to keep up to date with all of my latest videos. Okay, let's get started. So we're going to start off by making a slip knot, and you can do this in whichever method you prefer. Go ahead and insert your crochet hook, and we're going to begin by chaining 4. So yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through. That's 2, 3 and 4, and this is going to form a circle. So we're going to join with a slip stitch into that very first chain, pull through, and now we have our circle, and we're going to be working into this center circle. So to begin with, we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and this is going to class as a treble crochet. If you're in the US, this is known as a double crochet because I am working in UK terms. This is actually going to form one of the edges of the square. We're now going to do the 3 treble crochets, which is the traditional granny cluster. So we're going to do 3 trebles, 1, 2 and 3, all into that center circle, and then we're going to do 1 more treble crochet. So what we have here is a side, a granny cluster, and then a side. So we're now ready to move on to row 2. We're going to chain 3, 1, 2 and 3. Again, this is classing as a beginning treble for the side. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to work into the space in between the first and the second treble from the previous row. So we're not going into the top of the stitch, we're going into the space in between. And we're going to do that cluster of 3 trebles, which makes our granny stitch. 1, 2 and 3. So we have our beginning treble and then our cluster of 3 stitches making our granny stitch. We're then going to skip 3 trebles, which is our cluster from the previous row, and then we're going to work into the second to last and the last stitch with our 3 stitches, so that granny cluster. 1, 2 and 3, and we're going to end with a end treble. So 1 more treble into that stitch, and that creates our end treble. So we're starting to build our square here, the side and the side. We're now going to move on to row 3. So we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3 and turn. And this is where we're going to form our pattern here. So we're going to do the same thing as before. We're going to work into that first space with the 3 trebles. 1, 2 and 3. We're then going to skip this cluster of 3 trebles and move into this space with another granny cluster. 1, 2 and 3. We're going to skip the granny cluster from the previous row and then go into the second to the last and the last stitch with 3 more trebles, that granny cluster. 1, 2 and 3, And we don't want to forget our end treble, so we're going to do one more treble into there, like so. So if we move on to row 4, you'll see how this just will build and build. We're going to chain 3 as we've done before, turn our work and do our first lot of stitches, the 3 trebles, which is our granny cluster, into this very first space. 1, 2 and 3. You'll now notice that we have 2 spaces before we get to the next end, and this will grow and grow. You'll get more and more the bigger your work gets. So we're going to do that granny cluster into the next space. 1, 2 and 3. Granny cluster into the next. 1, 2 and 3, and then granny cluster into the second to last and the last stitch, the space between those stitches. 1, 2 and 3. You're going to end with your treble, your end treble, and again you can see that we have the square starting to build. So the more that you add onto this, the more rows that you add, the bigger the square will get. You want to build that until you get to the width of the square that you want. So you might be making smaller squares, you might want to make one big square. It's totally up to you, but you want to make sure that this bottom edge is the width that you want your project to be. And then you can start to decrease, which I'm going to show you in a minute. Before I show you how to decrease, I just want to show you how you would change your colours, because it's super easy. If I take away this last treble crochet, and then if we change colours how we normally would, so I'm going to start that treble crochet, and then before I finish, I'm going to drop this colour, I'm going to pick up the next colour, and I'm going to draw that through. And all I would do there is now start working with the second colour rather than the first. So I would do my chain 3, turn the work, and then continue with my clusters. So go ahead, pause the video, work your way until you are happy with the width of your project, and then meet me back in just a moment. Okay, so I have now worked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rows, and this is probably about the width that I would do if I was making a square. So obviously yours might be bigger if you're making just one big blanket, but at this point we want to be making this into a square, so we're going to start decreasing our rounds now, our rows. What we want to do here then is chain 3, 1, 2, 3, turn our work, and this is actually going to now class as the top of our work rather than the sides. So if you wanted to use your stitch marker, because some people can get a bit confused at this point, you could go ahead and place your stitch marker into the corner section just here, and that just really gives a clear definition of where we're up to. But at this point we want to bring this over, so this can be the top of our square, and we're going to do the 3 trebles, the granny cluster, into the next space along. So that's 3 trebles, and then we're just going to continue to work all the way over this row. So what you want to do is work until you get to the last space, and then meet me back once you're ready. So pause the video, work to your last space just here, and then meet me back in a moment. So I've just worked my way to that last space, and you can see here we have the side, and then this is going to be the top. So if I have it like this, side, top. We need to make this other side now, and we want to connect this cluster to this cluster, and the way that we're going to do that is to just do a treble crochet into that last stitch, or between those last 2 stitches, and then this almost classes as the chain 3. So we're not going to be able to do a chain 3 because it would leave us in the wrong spot to work back. So we'll do that treble crochet in there, and then we can go ahead and chain 3. 1, 2 and 3. Turn our work, mark that space if you need to, and that will just give you an indication of where that last stitch is. So as I say, this now moves across, and then we're just going to simply do those clusters, the treble granny clusters, all the way along until you get to this second to last space. So not this space here where we've done the chain 3, this second to last space between the last 2 clusters. So go ahead, pause the video, work your way along the row, and then meet me back once you're ready. Okay, so now you have come to the end of this row. We're going to do a treble crochet into this last space where this chain 3 was. So we'll treble crochet into there, and that gets us into the right spot to continue to decrease. So we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, turn our work, and then continue to do what we've been doing previously. So we're going to go straight across into that next space with our 3 trebles, our granny cluster, and then work across until you get to the space in between the last 2 clusters. So go ahead, pause the video, work your way until you only have 2 clusters remaining, and then I'll show you how to finish off. So I now have these 2 clusters remaining. We're going to chain 3 and then do our cluster into the next space, 1, 2 and 3, and then treble into that last side. And then to finish off, we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, turn the work. We don't do any clusters here. What we're going to do instead is just go into this next space, and we're going to slip stitch. And then all that you need to do then is snip off your yarn and then pull all the way out. And there you have your corner to corner granny square, which is beautiful. It's just got such a different look to it. You could put a border around this if you wanted to. I would recommend that you do block it so that you get those nice neat edges in the corners, but it's just a really stunning pattern, and it's just a different take on the granny square, the traditional granny square. So I really hope that you have enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, make sure you give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to keep up to date with all of my latest videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I shall see you again next time. Bye!